This week on Quality Digest Live, we'll speak with Tim Lozier of Verse Solutions about compliance with ISO 9001-2015.
Plus, the importance of customer retention before customer acquisition. That and more when we come back. And welcome back to Quality Digest Live for March 20th, 2015. QDL is your weekly look at who and what is making the news in the world of quality. I'm Dirk Ducharme, Editor-in-Chief of Quality Digest.
And I'm Quality Digest publisher, Mike Richmond. Well, we're going to start the show off this week with a hot off the presses news release from Baldrige that demands some immediate attention. If you believe, as many do, that the Baldrige Performance Excellence Program deserves to see their federal funding reinitiated, take a moment to check out the story link just below the video player screen right down there. Representative Sam Graves of Missouri is planning to submit a letter to the chairman and ranking members of the U.S. House of Representatives Subcommittee on Commerce, Justice, Science, and Related Agencies Appropriations. The letter will be requesting $8 million in federal funding for the Baldrige program. You can lend your support in a few different ways. You can sign on to Representative Graves' letter, or you can contact your local representative to express your support, or you can write directly to Baldrige. Again, see the story link below, right down there, to find out more. But act fast. The letter is going to be submitted this coming Monday, March 23rd, 3 days from now. So if you want to support this effort, don't waste any time. And Dirk, you know, this was one that we talked about a couple of years ago when Baldrige was first threatening to lose their federal funding and then lost their federal funding.
About 2 years ago, right?
About 2 years ago. There were some different opinions amongst our readership about whether or not that was a good thing or not.
Well, yeah, I think there were a lot of people who believed that the Baldrige should be supported by the people that it serves, which kind of at first blush you would say, well, the people that it serves are, you know, the manufacturing community, the nonprofit community, the healthcare and education, basically the Baldrige categories. And if those are the people who are benefiting from it, then they are the ones who should be supporting it. And that was kind of the argument that a lot of people were using to say, yeah, let's not have the government support Baldrige.
The flip side of that, and we had a lot of people believe this too, was that this program really benefits U.S. industry, U.S. manufacturing, and that support is important, and that the federal government needs to show that level of support to assist this because it helps U.S. competitiveness. A lot of interesting opinions on both sides of that equation.
And the timing, I think, is probably about right on this. Obviously, Republican-controlled Congress now. The Baldrige Award was started by Reagan. Mm-hmm. So if you're Graves is probably, I'm guessing, kind of preaching to the choir, maybe. Mm-hmm. So if there was a time to get refunding, probably now is the time. Now is the time to. By the way, I did reach out to Baldrige director Robert Fangmeyer to get his comment on this, but it was late in the day yesterday. I haven't heard back. But if we do hear from Mr. Fangmeyer, we will share what his thoughts are on this. And that's it. Okay.
That's right.
So. Some good news for those of you who might be building or working with a medical device data system. And this comes to us from Michael Causey, who frequently reports on FDA-related issues. According to Causey, the agency has issued a guidance last month that advises manufacturers, distributors, and others that it, quote, does not intend to enforce compliance with the regulatory controls that apply to MDDS, medical image storage devices, and medical image communications devices. Now, an MDDS, for those of you who aren't familiar, is basically any medical hardware or software that transfers, stores, converts, and or displays medical device data. To be considered an MDDS, the product can't modify either the data or its display. It also can't by itself control the functions of a medical device. So an MDDS isn't supposed to be used for active patient monitoring. In other words, it has no impact on patient safety. So I think we can see where the thinking of what the FDA is here. I mean, the FDA has plenty of other fish to fry. I mean, these guys are pretty busy. Things that do affect patient or consumer safety, let's say in the case of food and drugs. So as Causey has pointed out in the past, the FDA is woefully understaffed to handle the workload they already have. So why spend time and energy auditing products that really have no impact on safety? And kind of what we're talking about here, what Kazi's talking about here, is remember the Food Safety and Modernization Act really bumped up the workload on the FDA. I mean, they're supposed to, I think their charter is that they have to audit something like 6,000 companies a year. And the FDA basically told regulators, that ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, it ain't
There's just
happening.
no way we're gonna be able to do that. That and keep, that's just food safety. That's not, pharmaceuticals and medical device and all that. So I think what they're trying to do is the FDA is kind of triage, right? They're looking at, look, these things, they have no impact on patient safety. Why do we have to spend our time looking at them and spinning our wheels on it? So it doesn't make senes.
Yeah, triage is a good term. I think
Yeah,
that
it's exactly what they're doing.
Appropriate, but that's exactly what they're doing. They're prioritizing what's most important, and MDDS really just kind of isn't. But
Yeah.
I mean, but it's interesting stuff. I mean, the FDA does have an incredible workload, and I think that they need to be on top of that type of stuff.
Yep.
All right, thanks, Dirk. All right, well, the American Society for Quality is also in the news this week for some really great work they're doing in advancing manufacturing skills here in the United States. The ASQ recently announced that they awarded more than 9,800 various certifications in 2014 as part of a Manufacturing Institute partnership designed to fill high-tech, high-skill job openings. The Manufacturing Skills Certification System was developed in 2011 by the Manufacturing Institute to work with organizations such as the ASQ in providing training and certification for the U.S. workforce. The ASQ, of course, offers 18 various certifications, including those for certified quality technicians, certified quality engineers, certified quality inspectors, and many more. Programs of this nature from Manufacturing Skills Certification System partners, such as the ASQ, are helping the Manufacturing Institute reach a lofty goal: 500,000, 500,000 industry-based personnel certifications by 2016. And they're well on their way, as they have just about 80,000 more to go to hit the target. They have about 425,000 right now. Okay. 423,000, I think, is the exact number. They started it in 2011. So,
getting close.
Within another year, they're going to have that 500,000. Really impressive. We talk all the time here on the show and in Quality Digest Daily about the need to encourage young people to consider careers in engineering and manufacturing during their time at universities, trade schools, community colleges, high schools, and even earlier in their educational journey. Of course, that's really important, but sometimes we forget the critical necessity as well for continuing education as well. For anyone, anywhere in his or her career, can learn new skills, can broaden their own employability, and thereby enhance the overall health of the U.S. economy. And in a fast-changing, cutting-edge sector like manufacturing, staying ahead of the curve in skills development is even more important. We applaud the ASQ for being part of this program to lead that charge. It's really important. Ongoing adult education is, if not as important, if not more important, at least as important as getting those young people into manufacturing, I think.
And the other thing, I mean, the other value of it is as ASQ has shown, and we have shown in our own salary surveys, anytime you get any kind of certification, there is almost always a bump in your salary over time. So, I mean, certifications are good for you in the long term. I mean, not only do they increase your knowledge and make you able to do your job better, but in the long run, they're going to enhance your own personal bottom line, which is a kind of a nice thing.
In a big way.
In a big way.
Yeah,
Sometimes in a really big way.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right. Okay, the final draft of ISO 9001 2015 is due out later this year, and many are still waiting with bated breath to see what's in it, although really at this point we've got a pretty good idea of what's in it. It's probably not going to be much change, but regardless of what changes there are between, let's say, the existing 2008 version and the 2015 version, it is pretty safe to say that much of what goes into ISO 9001 or any quality management system for that matter can be aided with some automation. By automation, we mean software. Now, software is not necessary per se. I mean, certainly there's many QMS systems out there that operate just fine with paper and pencil or an Excel spreadsheet, but there are some real advantages to be gained using software that helps us integrate all of the various aspects of a QMS, regardless of whether, like I said, it's ISO 9001 or something else.
Anything else, yeah.
I'll say so. So we have Tim Lozier, Director of Product Strategy for Verse Solutions. He's joining us via Skype to describe some of those advantages. Hi, Tim.
Hey guys, how are you?
All right. Okay, so much of, as I said, much of what ISO 9001 or any QMS is about is really documentation. When you get down to it, you say what you do, and then you make sure everyone in your company does what you say, right? So how does automation help you accomplish this?
Sure. Well, what I think has really happened with the new 2015 standard is pretty interesting because they've revamped a lot of what they've originally said with the requirements, and they've taken a more company-wide approach to quality. And what's been valuable there is that it's no one person necessarily is owning quality. It's a company-wide effort. And so when you start to look at that from that perspective, what you start to see is that, well, okay, if we all are responsible for quality, how are we going to collaborate? How are we going to enroll everybody within that? And especially when you start with the do what you say aspect of it, what you're looking at is how can we make sure that the documentation, the processes, the procedures that we're all working within the framework are consumable to everybody within the organization. And so when you start to look at it, you need a centralized system. You need some place where everybody can collaborate. And having it centralized isn't necessarily the only thing. It's how do you effectively manage the workflow, the versioning? How do you manage the changes to the documentation at a very at a level when you have multiple different parties that would be interested? The second part of it is if you're saying what you do, you want to make sure that not only are everybody enrolled from a leadership perspective, but you're training them properly. You're making sure that when a document or a process is released, you're able to touch those people immediately in real time and get them to consume the new documentation and become knowledgeable, enrolled. It's really about a mindset that everybody should be collaborating and focusing on the quality initiative. And really, having automation to allow you to be the vehicle for which you deliver the centralized information, it really rounds out the whole story of quality that we're trying to achieve. So we're starting to see more automation being built in. And if you kind of read through the initial parts of the standard, there's a lot of the requirements, a lot of the frameworks built with technology as a consideration. There's a recognition there that they realize that technology is here. It's something that people may or may not use, but they're at least building it into the standards so that you can kind of have that broad-based approach.
And can technology help you more, let's say, concretely see how the various elements of ISO 9001 tie your company together? I mean, the connection, I don't know, between, let's say, risk management and improvement. I mean, is the technology make that more visible?
Well, I think what you're looking for and what you're starting to see is the concept of visibility and control. And when you look at it from a company-wide perspective, there's a lot of pieces involved, and there's a lot of data that gets consumed. We consume a lot of data in our professional lives. So whether you're looking at documentation, quality events, actions that you need to take, you want to make sure that you have a seamless trace from event detection to event correction and beyond. And so what I think automation's allowing you to do is have that unbroken chain. So you may have an adverse event that happens. You want to be able to take that information and relate it to an investigation, to inherit it to a corrective action, to inherit it to management of change. So there's a real push for having that level of visibility. Now, what's really interesting is that in the 2015 standard, they've really taken a risk management approach, which is new, and I think it's a bold and I think it's a very smart way to look at how you approach quality management. In many cases, when you're talking about risk, you're talking about two different things. You're looking at how you can identify and control the risks that are out there in a proactive manner, but you're also looking at how you can take the risk methodologies and really filter and categorize events by their risk. So now what you're doing is you're not just taking adverse events, you're not just routing them through their paces, you're actually putting a level of risk to say, what is the risk in this organization for that particular event? And I'm going to focus on that first before I start going into anything else. The last part of that, and really kind of the most interesting part, in my opinion, is that, when you look at it from a company-wide perspective, not everybody will speak quality. Not everybody will speak in terms of corrective actions and deviations, but everybody speaks risk. Everybody understands risk. It's systematic, it's objective, it's repeatable. So I really like the direction that ISO is headed with this in terms of leveraging the concepts of risk to really help you create a greater visibility, a greater understanding of what quality truly means to an organization.
Tim, related question for you here. Aside from helping you document your QMS, how do software solutions help you use all the elements of your QMS to improve and enhance your company's performance?
Sure. Well, like I said, there's a lot of data that comes through on any effort, whether it's quality or health and safety, whatever it may be. There's a lot of data that gets in there. And without a way to make sense of that data, without a centralized place to house that data and then make better decisions, you really start to get into a pickle, if you will, with the control of it all. So when you start to look at improvement activities, when you start to look at the ways that we can take a broad-based approach to the risks and the compliance activities, having reporting, having a way to have a central place for all your data and then do reporting on it becomes really key. And being able to do that in a real-time fashion, to be able to do that in a fashion that allows you to make quick decisions, make thoughtful decisions is critically important. But then when you start to think about, okay, well, we make our decision, what happens next? You really want to think about how you're managing change. And when we look at this and we say, okay, well, quality itself is not siloed to one particular area. It's pervasive across all operational areas. When you start managing change, you want to factor in design, production, inspections, what have you. And so having a workflow system, having a system that inherits the data and is able to translate that to a true management of change process becomes incredibly valuable when you start looking at technology and quality management systems.
Hey Tim, real quick. A lot of people, as I mentioned, a lot of people still use, let's say, Excel spreadsheets to handle their QMS needs. Sure. Part of the reason for that, I think, is either cost or maybe the complexity in setting up a system, or maybe both. And I'm thinking mostly smaller companies. How would you address that?
Well, it's becoming a trend, or it's really there's a certain existing common thought that all systems out there, all quality management systems out there are enterprise systems, and they're either unaffordable or they're inflexible. And so what ends up happening is people start saying, well, I either have to spend a lot to get what I want, or I have to settle for an inflexible system that's going to not necessarily meet my unique needs. And let's face it, everybody's company has a unique need. While you have this ISO framework, which is fantastic, each company is going to have their own unique processes and unique needs. And so what we're seeing in the industry in general with technology is that with the advent of cloud computing and the advent of software as a service, you start seeing the concept of software becoming more accessible to different levels of companies that are out there. So smaller companies now can take advantage of cloud-based solutions. They can take advantage of SaaS solutions to really allow them to achieve the same thing that the enterprise systems have been able to achieve at a fraction of the cost. So cost really has become less of an issue in terms of what technology can offer. The second part is really around, I just wanted to follow up. The second part was around the flexibility. And so, you look at that and you say, okay, well, how do I create something that's more flexible? And what you're really looking for is systems that are able to configure to your unique needs. So you're able to make changes without having to go through extensive programming or extensive methodologies to really make the system your own. So having cost-effective solutions that are flexible, it's incredibly achievable now in today's technology markets.
Okay, we're going to hear more about that on Tuesday at a webinar that Quality Digest is hosting, along with Tim Lozier here, Director of Product Strategy at Verse. ISO 9001 2015 compliance, how automation can help. So if you're interested in that topic, go ahead and sign up for it. If you go to Tim's article, which is below the player page, and there's a link on that article that you can click, and that'll let you sign up for that webinar. So Tim Lozier, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks, guys. It's been fun.
Okay, see you.
Thanks, Tim. See you on Tuesday. Yeah, good. Looking forward to that webinar.
Yep.
Going to be a good one. Definitely. All right. Well, we had another good article this week we look forward to reading. We always look forward to the articles from Annette Franz-Glenecki. And Annette's article ran, I believe, on Monday, Dirk, in Quality Digest Daily. And it was titled, "The Customer Experience Proof is in the Diet Pudding." Yes, that was it right there, by Annette Franz-Glenecki, and that ran in Monday's issue of Quality Digest Daily. Now, Annette is an expert in the care and feeding of customers. And here she tackles a company that seems to have run afoul a little bit of their customer base, Weight Watchers. And she begins by looking at Weight Watchers stock. She read an article recently in stock market media about Weight Watchers and about their stock. It really has taken a beating here in the last couple of years, the last year in particular. And when she looked closely at it and she listened to a conference call with the leaders of Weight Watchers, she started to kind of understand a little bit why about some of the problems they were having and why they were having these problems, right? Well, a couple of things she pointed out in the article. First was that the Weight Watchers strategy is to acquire new customers rather than embracing and keeping the ones that they have. They spend a lot of money on advertising and spend a lot of money on new offers for people to bring people in, not so much on making sure that those that they already have in the fold are going to want to stay. And customers get that, right? Customers see all this marketing going on and they say, well, hey, what about me?
I'm still trying to stay on this program.
Yeah, right. I mean, anything for me? No? Okay, well, that's a bit of a problem. Next is that they're a little fast and loose with their facts, maybe in some cases. And she referenced the conference call that she read of with analysts where the CEO and the CFO were talking about Weight Watchers and some of the struggles that they've had. In that call, the CFO claimed that 90% of customers liked a certain new product. Well, in fact, as the conference call went on and Annette did a little more digging, she actually found out that what the CEO had said was that, yes, 90% of the people that tried the product liked it. That was like 3% of the customer base. So they kind of said 90% of their customers liked it, not really so much, more like 2.7%
right.
of their customers really when you look at it, because it was like 90% of 3%.
Yeah.
So a little bit of a difference there. So a little fast and loose with the facts maybe. The final thing, and this is a really key one, is the V word. We talk about it all the time, value. They're not delivering value in the way that their customers want it. And you know, if you think about that industry, the weight loss industry, it like media, like our industry, has gone through a sea change in the last few years. You know, digital solutions, you know, different apps that are available, ways you can monitor your health and your pulse rate and all that kind of stuff, steps, all these things, have changed what people expect of a program like Weight Watchers. And Weight Watchers, and they admit this themselves, have not done a particularly good job of keeping up in terms of using the solutions that are available to give customers what they want, to deliver value, and others are doing a better job of that, I think, than Weight Watchers in a large measure. Well, the takeaway here, I think, is that VOC, voice of the customer, is a real thing, and you ignore it at your peril. I think running a business for long-term success really means that you are going to adapt to what your customers want, and you're going to listen to what their feedback is, and you're going to adapt to that. And the other thing here really is that there's an old truism that it's a heck of a lot easier to keep a customer than it is to get a new customer. And you know, many companies churn, and churn is part of your strategic imperative maybe, and you have to get new customers, of course, all the time, but you can't ever forget about the customers that you have.
And there's a third one to that, is it's harder to get back customers you've lost.
That's right.
I mean, once you lose them, if you've left a bad taste in their mouth, you're going to have a harder time acquiring them back than you would getting a new customer.
Sure, and again, especially if you look at what this industry is going through right now, there's so many options online where people can do things for themselves, and monitors you can pick up, and things you can do that you don't maybe necessarily need a program. The program gives a lot of support, and certainly people over the decades have used Weight Watchers successfully, and it's been a major part of a lot of people's lives. So they have a good story to tell in terms of how they help people, but they're maybe not doing as good of a job of getting to that. And VOC is important. I think what Annette's getting at here is that, again, you need to understand what your customers are telling you, not only what their words are telling you, but what their actions are telling you, which is as much, if not more important. And Annette always has a really good perspective on customers. I consider her a customer care and feeding expert, as I said, and she is all that. And her articles always talk about the same theme about, you know, what you're finding out from the customers that you have, how you keep them, how you develop new ones, and how that all fits together. Really good stuff there from Annette.
Yep, good stuff. And we're going to switch from voice of the customer to voice of the process.
That's right.
Okay, we're going to talk about risk management. Well, risk management is kind of the phrase du jour. Everybody's talking about it, and why not? I mean, it's an important subject, but are you measuring how well your risk management system, how well your risk management process is doing? Can you even measure that? And it's kind of a paradox, points out Rob Farrar in his article, Measuring Risk Management Outcomes. After all, if you think about this, if you're managing your risk well, then there's not going to be any surprises, right? No news is good news. But is it? is the issue that none of the pitfalls you have safeguarded against ever had a chance to occur?
Right.
So your risk management system was never tested? Or is it that your risk management system is doing its job? Who knows? If nothing bad's happened, well, who knows why that is? On the other hand, if everything goes south and your company is exposed to a lawsuit, for instance, well, then everybody says, hey, Mike, didn't we put a risk management thing? Hey, weren't you in charge of the risk management program? Well, I got to leave. I got an appointment I got to go to, yeah. You hate to be that guy, right? I mean, it's a no-win situation for the guy who's in charge of that program.
Yeah.
But maybe, says Farrar, there is a way to get a glimpse at whether your risk management system is actually contributing something. Farrar suggests that you periodically assess the maturity of your risk management system, and that is, look at how well you are meeting the various elements of that risk management system. As your system matures, you should be able to see completion and compliance to these elements increase. So what he's talking about is, you have a risk management system. It's like any system. It's got its little milestones and it's these things you need to get done, and maybe it's procedures or whatever, people in place for particular positions. And so periodically you want to assess, okay, how well am I doing? Am I meeting these performance metrics in my risk management system? But he says, don't stop there. Take some performance metrics from the company as well at the same time. At the same time you're doing your maturity assessment, you should also look at some of your company's metrics like safety incidents, staff turnover, customer satisfaction, maybe fines or profit after taxes, time to fill a vacancy, anything. This is the type of stuff that your company might or should be collecting all the time, even if it doesn't have a risk management process in place. Farrar suggests, and he hints that it is really just kind of a guess on his part, that as you see improvement in your risk management maturity, you should see improvement in some of these performance metrics, company performance metrics as well. And is one necessarily causal of the other? Yeah, maybe not. I mean, it's hard to really see a connection, but you certainly would think that if you're seeing your maturity of your risk management increase and you're seeing your performance metrics of your company get better, that there's a connection there.
Yeah.
And here's why. This is my opinion anyway. As has been pointed out, when talking about establishing a QMS or preparing for the Baldrige Award or whatever, anytime you take a close look at your company's overall approach to anything, it doesn't matter what it is, that scrutiny causes you to detect efficiencies or safety issues or whatever in your system. In other words, the mere fact that you are paying attention to the system improves the system. Yeah. So that would apply to risk management as well. If you're paying attention to this, let's say, narrow topic within your company, what are our risk categories, what are our risks for the various aspects of our company, the mere fact that you're looking at them is probably going to improve not only your risk management system, but you're going to spot improvements that you can make for your company as well. I mean, so is one causal of the other? Maybe, but certainly the fact that you're looking at stuff is causal.
Yeah, exactly right. And it's just kind of human nature too. I mean, people who know they're being watched are going to help to do more work to make sure it's all the hatches
getting better,
are
right?
down,
Exactly.
right? I mean, it's just human nature with that too.
This kind of goes back to those Taylor experiments, really.
Yeah. Absolutely, working with time and motion studies, exactly right. Going back to the early part of the century, last century. Good stuff there. Oh, thanks, Dirk. Okay, well, it's time now. We're coming to the end of the show, so it's time now for the tweet of the week. And this one comes to us from Twitter user Sour Horse, who tweets, "Present Sarah is often annoyed at past Sarah. Past Sarah seems to be a disorganized slacker. Present Sarah would never do such things." Well, welcome to my world, Sarah. If it weren't for that nasty space-time continuum thing, I would be constantly going back in time and kicking younger Mikey right in the caboose. But that's me. I think Sarah's probably in the same vein.
I would say my tweet would be something like, "Present Dirk is really upset with future Dirk."
Wow,
future Dirk is a grumpy old man.
You're really messing with the space-time continuum on that one. Wow. Okay. Well,
I'm not going to be my dad, I swear.
Oh, gosh, all of us. Well, for other great tweets regarding quality, management, and customers, not to mention time-traveling, self-butt kicking, you know where to find us on Twitter, always at Quality Digest.
That's right. Well, that is the end of today's show. And just a reminder, if you're interested in ISO 9001 2015 compliance and how a software solution might help you along with that, there is the webinar, ISO 9001 2015 compliance, how automation can help, this Tuesday, March 24th, at 2 p.m. Eastern and 11 a.m. Pacific. So if that floats your boat, sign up for that and get on our list.
That's right.
Going to be a lot of good content in that, and a lot of good questions going to be coming out of that too. We got a big audience, so there's going to be a lot of really good questions, down-to-earth questions coming in on that. So, that's it for today, and we thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, we'll see you next week for another great week of Quality Digest Daily, right back here on Friday for Quality Digest Live. So have a great weekend, and we'll see you then.
So,
bye.
Four, three, two, one, fire.